Good afternoon again. I'm Paulo Zagalo, as been already introduced. I'm a PhD student at the Military University Institute on Military Sciences and focusing on the CSDP, on European Studies. And I have to give my warmest regard to Professor Sonia Senica and my fellow colleagues at this panel. This is part of a research project that I'm undergoing, and I'm asking you to give me, if needed, if found, any kind of advices in order to improve my paper and to give it in the better format for printing review. My 20 minutes are going through these 7 points that are here at the agenda. Because I want to be tied to the time, my next slide gives us already the info that probably we are under. We are on a boiling water, and this is because we are in a globalized world and a networked one that contagious all from actions, inactions, or misactions from others, from the international scene, that is characterized by uncertainty, unpredictability, and competition, other than other interests, such those that are now happening in Ukraine. And probably we are facing now a bigger challenge, because after the end of the Cold War, Europeans started to have this feeling of perpetual peace, the Kantian peace, and decided not to invest in security and defense, not being per se a militarist point of view, probably because security is a permanent concern of organization and states, and because the European Union promotes peace and well-being of its members to achieve the so-called sustained development. But once again, we have to pay attention to those that went before us and wrote papers that needed to be read. Let me go to the last line. Tribal wars and ethnic conflicts will take place within civilizations. Probably this will drive our attention. And Mr. Samuel Huntington is telling us that we should pay attention to the world, and coming to the field of developing area in which I am, that is Bosnia-Herzegovina. Let me give you this hint. Bosnia-Herzegovina, as we know it, was defined after the Dayton Agreement in 1995. And from then to now, the compliance of this agreement has not been as the world and the letter of the agreement was expecting. And so sometimes with resistance, sometimes with presence of the international community, Bosnia authorities and entities are going along with the agreement. Although recently, and we have to pay attention to it, some clear signs indicates that we have the possibility of secession from one of the two entities, the Republika Srpska. The other one is the Federation of Bosnia-Croat, that is managing the country, so to say. And these signs, if further developed, will gives us the possibility to jeopardize the compliance with Dayton, creating like that a crisis and conditions that might evolve to a conflict in Europe under the EU umbrella. Once again, and in a graphic way, we have three ethnic groups: Catholic, Muslim, and Orthodox, and two different entities: the Republika Srpska, the darker color, the dark brown color over there, and the Federation of Bosnia-Herzegovina. And so if the secession, if the compliance of Dayton ends now, one question arises and needs to be answered. How can the EU influence Bosnia-Herzegovina in maintaining a safe, secure, and stable environment? To answer the question, we are going through it, but we are anticipating the answer. And so my hypothesis is, and so the bottom line up front, the bluff, is using the integrated approach. Why? Using diplomatic and political instruments or options, an economic one, because Bosnia, as we'll see, depends on it, and the military one, because we need to create the conditions for the country be run by itself. But to be there, we need to go to a paramount importance on our perspective definition. Although this is a polysemic concept, let me call you for two different definitions. Crisis is a situation between peace and war, and under the European Union external action, crisis is a situation of sudden and serious deterioration that might have impact on the security interest of the EU or the security of the EU personnel and citizens. And so, further on, in 2016, it was defined and approved the European Union Global Strategy, defining levels of ambition, actions to be performed, and results to be obtained. The major part of it is that, and Ms. Mogherini told us that European Union should speak with one face and win with one voice, trying to get all the partners on track in compliance with all those accepted aspects. And also because, as it is written on green, the weaknesses of my neighbors and partners are my own weaknesses. Going through it, we are approaching that we need to combine conflict prevention, mediation, and peace building in an integrated approach to conflict and crisis through a coherent use of all policies at the EU's disposal. But we need to pay attention to Bosnia as it is now and from where it comes. The Balkan Wars at the beginning of the 20th century were two different wars. One between the Balkan League, so it was a league between Serbia, Greece, Romania, Bulgaria, and trying to fight the Ottoman Empire. And after, in the end of the war, they quarreled to get control of Bulgaria and access to the sea. The problem is that the Asian Sea was geopolitical interest of Serbia, because it was the way to reach the sea and the warm waters towards the Mediterranean. But this point was not given to Serbia, and the war ended with dispute and giving situation to start the second one. And the second Balkan War broke after Serbia, Greece, and Romania quarreling over Bulgaria again, trying to divide Macedonia. Why? Because they want to go through Montenegro to the sea. The problem is that even with the presence of Russia to mediate the conflict, Serbia lost on their interest. And so the Adriatic Sea wasn't at their disposal. And so the world, presuming that this situation was ending, the world witnessed the tensions in the Balkans that helped to spark World War I. Going on further, and the Kingdom of Yugoslavia was the outcome of reuniting all those republics that we were mentioning before. In 1929, the Parliament of the Kingdom of Serbia decided to reestablish the greater Serbia. And although the Kingdom of Serbia land, the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, sorry, that means land of South Slavs, it was absolute power. Two different groups, nationalist groups, broke up on fights. The Yutasha, that were Croatians, and the Chetniks, that were the Orthodox. Though the Yutasha were Christians and pro-fascists, and the Serbs, the Chetniks, were Orthodox and pro-Russians. Those two groups were fighting among them until the moment in which a single and common enemy appeared, the Second World War, and the Axis is trying to invade the Yugoslavia. And then a person came to create a movement, a communist partisans movement, trying to grab those two groups, Yutasha and Chetniks, and so together they could fight and expelled the enemy, the common enemy. And so they managed to do it, and the World War was able to diminish the fractions between the Croats and the Serbs, so Yutasha and Chetniks, and becoming alliance, they decided to put aside the war, although with the cost of lives on 1 million Yugoslavs. Then Tito's decided to rule, and it was accepted as such, the Yugoslavia. And the Yugoslavia, under his concept, was run by a concept of brotherhood and unicity. But once again, reducing probably to zero, that was difficult, the nationalisms, knowing that only through a common element would be able to have a great country. And so, although being close to the communist ideas, he decided not to go with Stalin, and so he created with other countries like India or South Africa non-alignment movement. So this non-aligned state, it was up to 150 states, and those were trying to keep themselves in between the two major powers. But the problem is that as human, Tito passed away, and passed away in 1980. From 1980 until the early 90s or late 80s, the region, the country was trying to be governed by coalitions and a kind of agreements that were able to manage the country working as such. But in the end, the two healthiest republics, Croatia and Slovenia, decided to hold elections, and so they decided to abandon the idea of a unified Yugoslavia. And so in 91, Slovenia and Croatia held, and later Yugoslav Federal Republic of Macedonia, decided to declare the independence. And the civil war was about to begin. Why? Because the Serbians, the Bosnian Serbians, supported by Belgrade, weren't in a will to let the country split apart. And actually, the world witnessed a huge civil war from 92 to 95. We can recall those images. And between Croats, Bosnian Serbs, and Bosniaks, the three major entities, they committed all types of atrocities, and being the Bosnian from Belgrade started to arm the Bosnian Serbs. Then the elections were held on Bosnia-Herzegovina in order to declare also the independence, and the three factions decided to fight between them to have the supreme power. I was telling you that from 92 to 95, the civil war devastated the country, but several attempts to solve the problems, to have peace over there, was conducted. 92, it was the Carrington-Cutileiro Plan, 92, Van Soen Plan, 93, Owen-Stoltenberg Plan, and in 94, the Contact Group Plan. But they failed. Failed because the Serbs were against, the Republic Srpska were against, sometimes because some of those that were signing the paper, giving his in principium approval, decided not to go, and then the final process was to go against all the process. And then we have the Dayton Agreement. It was negotiated in Dayton, and so the name, and it was finally signed on the 14th December 95. Those are the entities, those are the person representing entities under the supervision of Warren Christopher, the American Secretary of State. And so we have Bosnia as we know it, with a composition of two entities, the Republic of the Federation of Croatia and Bosnia, and the Republika Srpska. To implement what was written and agreed on the 95 Dayton's Agreement, some forces were put in place by NATO, and then after and from 2004, EU4. And those were the instruments from the international community to invite imposing in first place with the I4, and then stabilizing, advising, and inviting, so to say, helping to comply and promoting the support given by the EU4. What are now the main ideas concerning the future? And we have here two different entities. The EU on the far up left corner, and the up right one to the NATO. I do believe that our colleague Pedro will address the situation on the EU membership that was formally applied on the 15th February 2006 by the Bosnia, and with the opposition of the Republika Srpska, and the main intention is to access to the world's principal single market, that is. And again, trying to have financial and development assistance other than the freedom of movement from the citizens. And the NATO support for democratic institutional security and defense, plus the development of the professional armed forces, trying to give the determination to Bosnia to be a sovereign country. But we have the instability factors. First of all, Mr. Schmidt, that is now the United Nations High Representative to Bosnia-Herzegovina, says that there are signs raising the eyebrow to the Republika Srpska, because Mr. Dodik is trying to secession from the Bosnia-Herzegovina. They are trying to withdraw from the three pillars of the state: defense, judicial, and the tax system instruments. And so EU is trying to give them all the instruments to not provide to Mr. Dodik's reasons to step aside of the Bosnia-Herzegovina entity. But once again, the Banja Luka, that is the capital of the Republika Srpska, witnessed demonstrations supporting Dodik's positions, secessing from the Bosnia-Herzegovina, and plus he is saying that he does not follow the decisions of unelected foreigners. Plus, there are other stability and instability factors. The proximity of Mr. Dodik to China and Russia, being the Russian ambassador able to say that if Bosnia can join NATO, Moscow will react as a threat being posed. And so we have to look at the specific aspect, that is Mr. Dodik. Mr. Dodik saying that there is no war. Russia and China support the Republika Srpska. The High Representative does not have valid decisions over the Republika Srpska. He is against the current constitution, that is one annex to the Dayton Agreement. And then he decided to delay the plans to pull their region, Republika Srpska, from national institutions because of the Ukraine invasion. What are so the options that we are announcing after the analysis that we are making and we have been making so far? First, the diplomatic. Why? Because meetings are being conducted under the EU senior entities and institutions with the Bosnia-Herzegovina, both in there and inside the Balkan cities, Western Balkan cities. Then the position and statements. And today we are expecting to study the State of the Union that Miss von der Leyen addressed during the morning. So all the diplomatic and political influences are trying to diffuse the crises that are being there. Another one is that we are listening and we have paid attention to Miss von der Leyen when she says that your future, addressing Bosnia-Herzegovina, your future is Europe, you are part of Europe. And on the 28th October 22, she said specifically that we have to celebrate our proposal to make Bosnia a candidate for EU membership. The economic one, let me call your attention to the far side, the right side of the slide. EU represents 72.5% of the foreign direct investments on the Western Balkans. So the difference is against Russia for 4.6% and China only 0.1%, meaning that from 2014 to 2020, 530 million euros were injected there, and from 2021 to 2027 are expected to be invested 14 billion euros. This is a huge weight on the situation. Plus, the ambassador that is the head of the EU delegation for the EU and the EU special representative to Bosnia said that the EU is the largest investor and the most loyal partner for Bosnia-Herzegovina. The other option is the military one. We have there a force that is manned of 1,100 in theater. They are now conducting support local authorities in maintaining a safe and secure environment, combined and collective training, and all this is due to their presence in the Bosnia-Herzegovina, other than providing the military emergency support. And we can recall last year the floods, the fires, and the catastrophes that they witnessed. In a very short way, let us go through the three different options. Economic diplomatic and political, the economic and the military one. Now we are able to answer the question: how can the European Union influence Bosnia-Herzegovina in maintaining a safe and stable environment? Through an integrated approach as defined in the European Union global strategy, using diplomatic, political, comprehensive approach, then the economic one and the military one, all concurrent to the secure and safe environment in Bosnia-Herzegovina. So this concludes my briefing, and I remain available for any question that you will be able to pose me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paulo.